Well, at the time, he was working for Montgomery Ward's mail order house in Oakland. They were going to send him to Chicago for his reward, going to promote him. And he got word of that, and he didn't want to go to Chicago because he had served time in the Navy there, and he didn't like it. He didn't want to go. So he put out resumes, but nothing came back. And finally he says, "Okay, Lord, if you want me to go, I'll go." And right after that, he gets a call from the president of the Blue Chip Stamp Company telling him that he had kept his resume under the glass on his desk, and he now had a man from Sacramento that wanted to talk to him. It was on a Tuesday, and Mr. Raley came and met with him and wanted to hire him on the spot. Chuck says, "Mr. Raley, you've checked me out, but I haven't checked you out." And wanted to come to Sacramento and see. Mr. Raley wanted him to go to work right away, but Chuck says, "That's not fair to Wards. I have to give them a 2-week notice." So he did that, and he went to work on October 20th, 1956.
What was the inspiration of Food for Families that initiated Joyce and Chuck to create it?
Well, actually, from the time I met Chuck, which had been a long time, but he always cared about people and if he saw somebody in need, he wanted to help them out. So he went over and met with Dan Madigan, who is a Catholic priest in charge of the food bank. And they talked about what the needs were and what they thought Raley's could do, and of course they agreed on Raley's helping. After Chuck got it all organized and on paper and everything, he took it to Joyce, and she came aboard right away and told him yes, she thought it was a good thing, and so then they put it in action. And she was a big supporter of his, of course, and a supporter of Food for Families. So that's really how it got started.
So Frances, in those early days when Joyce and Chuck brought that initial vision together, and then the response of the community, how did that resonate with Joyce and Chuck?
Oh, they were happy, of course, to see it take place, and they could see a lot of people being cared for through it that you wouldn't get from individuals, because people with families, if they could not have a lot of money to give, well, they wouldn't just drive over to the food bank and drop off food. So this way, they had some barrels at Raley's, and in my memory, I think they had some jars up at the cash registers where they dropped in money when they'd get change, and they would drop it into that. And the best part about all of it was Nancy McGagan was doing the bookwork, keeping all the bookwork for it, and Raley's paid her for her job. She was Mr. Raley's secretary, but she was the first one doing that, and so all the money went directly to Food for Families. And that's one thing I've told people lots of times. I don't know of any other organization where whatever you give, it all goes for what you're giving for.
So it sounds like the community quickly rallied around the vision of Food for Families.
Oh, they did.
Of which I'm sure just delighted Chuck and Joyce, and even exceeded their expectations right out of the gate.
I think so. And of course, Chuck had a good relationship with Jim and Joyce, and the blessings that he listed in that letter I told you about later, before when telling me what he wanted for his memorial service, he said that one of his blessings was that Jim and Joyce treated him like family.
Yeah.
And so they got along really well, and they were having fun, actually.
What is your favorite memory with Chuck and Joyce as it relates to Food for Families?
Well, the most important one and all was just the fact that they could agree on something as important as this, and it made Chuck so happy that she would join in. And then I remember, in fact, there's a picture of her in the Raley's book where she's at the food bank and back there doing something with them, whatever, and she would go out and speak and so forth, and was out in the community, and Chuck didn't have to do all of that by himself either.
So more than anything, you remember the great camaraderie and shared vision that they had for Food
Right.
for Families, and
Right.
how that manifested itself. Yeah, that's wonderful. What do you think Chuck would say about the growth, the success, the impact of Food for Families today, from where it initially started and to where it is now?
Well, I can picture him with a big smile on his face saying, "What a blessing," realizing how many lives have been blessed by getting food through Food for Families, which is important when you don't have money. I came out of a very poor background, but I was blessed to be raised out on the farm where we had the food to raise, you know. And I wasn't like somebody that's living in a community and they aren't able to buy their food. And we have some people like that in this time in the age that we're living in, and they still can get food through Food for Families. So he would be saying, what a blessing.